So CNN contributor Rick Santorum, former senator, former Republican candidate for president, gave a speech to young conservatives, and in it said some of the most ignorant things I've ever seen about Native Americans and American history more generally. Check this out.
If you think about this country, I don't know of any other country in the world that was settled predominantly by people who were coming to practice their faith. They came here because they were not allowed to practice their particular faith in their own country. And so they came here mostly from Europe, and they set up a country that was based on Judeo-Christian principles. When I say Judeo-Christian, the Mosaic Laws, 10 Commandments, and the teachings of Jesus Christ, the morals and teachings of Jesus Christ. That's what our founding documents are based upon. It's in our DNA. You know, if you think of other countries like Italy and Greece and China and Turkey and places like that, they've all sort of changed over time. I mean, they've been there for millennia in many cases. And their culture has sort of evolved over time. But not us. We came here and created a blank slate. We birthed a nation from nothing. I mean, there's nothing here. I mean, yes, we have Native Americans, but candidly, that there isn't much Native American culture in American culture. It was born of the people who came here pursuing religious liberty to practice their faith, to live as they ought to live, and have the freedom to do so. Religious liberty. Those are the two bulwarks of America. Faith and freedom. I mean, you hear it all the time now, faith and freedom, faith and freedom. But it is what makes America unique in the world.
And so you can see there that is off the walls offensive, but also just historically illiterate. What he's doing there is what's been done by a lot of people throughout history, going back hundreds of years, which is to suggest that effectively the lands that were found in what is now Canada and the United States, but also like New Zealand and Australia, were effectively empty, either literally empty or the people that were there did not matter, and they built a nation out of nothing as a way to justify the systemic theft of a continent, the systemic theft of a country from sea to shining sea. And so you can see Santorum continue to use the very same sorts of justifications that have harmed and dispossessed indigenous peoples for hundreds of years and still do to this day. But beyond it being simply offensive and racist, let's be clear, it's incorrect. This idea that indigenous people haven't played massive roles in the history and current reality of the United States and Canada and other countries like that is just 100% wrong. In the US alone, like half the states, so many cities and rivers and mountains and regions are named after indigenous words, either directly or, hybrid words that mix English and indigenous languages, or French and indigenous languages, or Spanish and indigenous languages. And beyond all that, crucially, the United States founding fathers, when they looked to influences, in part, they looked to indigenous forms of government as their influence. And so the U.S. Constitution, at least partially, is deeply influenced by the Iroquois confederacy. Like how some of the indigenous people in western parts of this continent organized themselves was a direct influence to people like Jefferson and Washington and all of these early founding fathers, because they saw that these indigenous people had so much to teach and that they didn't go away. Their contributions, in spite of people like Santorum literally trying to destroy them and their cultures and their way of life, indigenous people survive and they thrive and they continue to contribute. And so don't listen to this BS. And CNN, they're going to fire this guy. And look, you might say, oh, you're going to fire him for an opinion? No, well, maybe, honestly. Yeah, this opinion is so ugly, it's so abhorrent, it's so racist that, yeah, maybe he should get canned for it. But even if you put that aside, you should not have a political expert that you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, I assume, to come on your show every now and then, when he doesn't even understand the basics of American history and American politics. This is ugly, and it's wrong.